Good day, everyone. Good day, Sir Tampos. My name is Ron Sharif Pirayas, and I am from BSCS 4B. I am here today to present my Battleground presentation. And for the Battleground, I choose the topic Python Random Module. But first, let me share you why I choose this topic. I choose the topic Python Random Module because I believe that life can sometimes feel certainly random. There are unexpected events and outcomes that will shape our experiences because life is full of randomness. Don't expect to understand it, but you just have to live with it. However, it is important to take note that from all the random things around us, from strangers we met, from unexpected event that comes into our life, always remember that it is your personal choice and personal decision that will define your life. And also, I choose this topic because I find it quite interesting because there are a lot of random things around us, right? We don't really understand why and how, but they are there. A lot of factors. So I am here to discuss a glimpse of it, look for it, and explain why it is important, why is it there, and how can we use it in our daily living. So, without further ado, let's get started. But first, what is a Python random module? A Python random module is a built-in module to generate the pseudo-random variables. It can be used to perform some actions randomly, such as get a random number, selecting a random elements from a list, shuffling elements randomly, and so on and so forth. So in short, a random module is a Python module in which you can do sort of things like just mentioned, getting an element from a list or randomly picking a number from a range that you set and or the parameter. So uh, as we all know, we are familiar with the three methods of random modules. Sir Campos taught us from our previous lessons. We are familiar with the random, the choice, and the randint. But now, I will discuss a total of 7 more methods. So, let's get started. So, for our first method, we have the random method, which we are familiarized with, right? So, a random method is a method where it returns a random float number between 0 and 1. So, random method is the system will generate a random number from 0 and 1. So, in short, if you use the random method, the computer will generate a number from 0 and 1. It is a float number, which means it is a decimal number. So, how can we use or how do we declare the random method? So, first, we must uh, call first the random module. And how do we do that? We must import it by simply typing import random. Import random. So by typing import random, we can use all the methods or all the syntax from the random module. So as we go back, how can we declare the random method? So first, we should type random dot random. And don't forget the parentheses. So simple as that, you already use the random method, random dot random. And by printing it, the system will generate a random number between 0 and 1, which, for example, it will generate 0.888999, 0.372, 0. Something like that. And we should remember that in random method, it is 0 and 1, between 0 and 1, meaning that 0 is included and 1 is excluded. So it means if we use the random method, it will never generate the number 1. So let's move on to the second method, which is the uniform method. What is a uniform method? Uniform method is returns a random float number between two given parameters. So it's like random method, which give a random float number, which means it has decimal point. But the difference of uniforms and random is that in uniform we will declare and we will give the parameter or the length, the number that we want to get a random float number. For example, I want to get a float number from 1 to 5. So I will use a uniform method. So how can we use it and how do we declare uniform method? First, you will just write random dot uniform. And inside the parentheses, you will first write your first starting number and your ending number. And for my example here, I write random.uniform parentheses 1 to 10. So if I print that, the system will give me a float number between 1 and 10. So it can be 5.544, it can be 6 point something, 7 point something, 4 point something, like that. So that's how the uniform method works. So let's move on to our third method, which is, I think we are familiar with it. It is the randint method. What is a randint method? It returns a random whole number between the given range. So randint method is like a uniform method, but the difference is that in uniform, it gives a random float number, while in randint method, it returns a whole number from the given range or parameter. So how we declare the randint method? So we will type random to call the random module dot randint. And as like as in uniform, inside the parentheses we will put our starting and ending number. So I will 1 to 10. Same example. So if I print out random.randint parentheses 1 to 10, it will give me a random number from 1 to 10. So it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's it for the randint. And our next module is choice method. What is a choice method? It returns a random element from a given sequence. So choice method is, you should declare a list first before using a choice method. So you will declare a list of elements, but in choice with a syntax of bracket, you will put a list inside the bracket because that's how we make a list, right? And make a list, for example, I will make a list of colors. I will put inside the list black, blue, red, and green. So I want to pick a random color from that list. I will use a choice method. So how do we declare the choice method? So first we will make a list. Example, I will make a color variable equals bracket, I say blue, red, black. So from my color list, we have blue, red, and black. So how do we choose a random element from that list? By using a choice method, we will write random dot choice inside the color list. So that's how we declare a choice method. Random dot choice and parenthesis inside is the list name. So if I print it, the system will give me a random color or random element, I mean rather, from the color list, which can be blue, red, or black. So it could be random. So every time I run it, it can output red, blue, or black. And for the next one is choices. So choices is returns a list with a random selection from the given sequence. So what is the difference of choice and choices? In choice method, uh, the system will just randomly pick one element from the list, while in choices, root from its plural form of choices, meaning we have multiple elements that we can get from the list. So it returns a list with a random selection from the given sequence, which means we can get as many as we want from a list that we have. So how do we declare it? So just like random dot choices, and inside the parentheses we will put the name of the list, which is the color, and we will declare how many times do we call the list. So for example, I will call 5. So K, we will discuss it later. But that's how you declare the choice, or that's how you call the choices method. Random the choices, parentheses, color name, and how many times the length, how many times do we want to call the list. So if I print it, it will give me a 5 list of elements from the color. So it can be blue, blue, red, red, black, black, red, blue, red, black. But because I put k equals 5, it will always give me 5 elements from that list. Okay? So let's discuss about the k value, which we already used in choices method. So k value is an integer defining the length of the returned list. So as I said, k is the length of the returned list. So how many times do we want to call the list, and how many elements do we want to output. So that's the k value. And choices method has also this one features, which is the weights value. Weights value is a list where you can weight the possibility for each value. Okay, so in choices method, we can have a decision on how does an element weight. For example, in a game where there is a choices of blue, red, and black, where it is not equally divided. For example, the blue is 40%, red is 40%, and black is just 20%. So, how do we declare the weight? Or or how do we write and put a weight in our elements? So here what it is. We write random, the choices, inside is the name of the list, which is color, comma, and the weight equals to, if we're declaring weight, it is also in a bracket form or bracket syntax. So, excuse me. And it is important to remember that the number of elements must also be the number of weights. So if there's three elements in your list, there should be also you should also declare three weights in your code. So all the elements should have a weight of its own. So for example, I want to weight the blue 40, the red 40, and the black 20. And don't forget the K on how many times you're gonna call the list. Let's still write 5. So how does weight work? So I put 40 in blue, 40 in red, and 20 in black. Which means if we add this, we have 40, 40, 20, we have 100 weights. So blue has a 40 over 100 chance to be picked in a choices method. Also red has a 40 over 100 chance to be picked, while black only has 20 over 100% chance to be randomly selected. Which means if I run this, the blue and red has the more chance to be printed, or more chance to be printed, to be selected, because they have more weights than black. Okay, do you get it? So that's how the weights work. So let's move on to our sixth method, which is the shuffle method. So shuffle method is takes a sequence and return the sequence in a random order. So shuffle method can be useful in, for example, deck of a card, which is in a deck of a card there's 1 to 52 cards, right? There's 52 cards, and there's ace to kings, different uh, different types like heart, diamond, spade, and flower, and it is arranged 0 to 52, right? So if you want to shuffle the cards, you can use the shuffle method. But first, let us declare our deck. So let's say we have a variable deck equals, let's make it a list with a range of 1 to 53, because in list, if we use range 1 to 53, it will only count 1 to 52. 53 is not included. So we have a deck, a list which has a range 1 to 53. So it has a 1 to 52 set of cards. And how do you declare the random method? So I mean the shuffle method. Random dot shuffle, and then the name of our variable, which is deck. Because if we print the deck without shuffling the card, it will show 1, 2, 3, 4 all over to 52. But if we use the random shuffle or shuffle method, random dot shuffle parenthesis deck, and we print it, it will shuffle the 1 to 52 set of cards into a shuffle list, which means 1 to 52 cards is shufflely arranged, randomly arranged, I mean. So it can be 4, 7, 27, 40, 52, 10, 2, so on and so forth. So in short, it will shuffle the deck of cards. So that's how shuffle method works. And for our last method, which is the sample method returns a given sample of a sequence. So a sample method is, it's like you want to pick from this deck of cards a 5 cards, right? So you want to pick up 5 cards from this deck. So we will use a sample method. And always remember that in sample method, every element is unique. So it will pick a unique element. In short, it will not pick an element twice. Because if you will if you will understand and you will think about it, you can say that you can also use choices in picking five numbers. I mean five cards from a deck of 1 to 52, right? But in choices method, it will select a random of list from a selection of the given sequence, which means a number one card can be picked twice, which is we do not want to because we want five different cards. So if we use the choices method, we can pick one card twice, which we don't want to. So we will use the sample method because it picks a unique element every time, meaning it will not pick same element twice. Okay, do you understand? So how do we use the sample method? First, random dot sample parentheses the name of the variable, which is the deck, and how many times do we wanna pick from that set, from that list, I mean. So we wanna pick five cards. So if I print this, the sample method will get me five cards from the deck of 1 to 52 cards. So it can give me 1, 2, 10, 11, 20 number of cards. So I think that's it. So that's all for my battleground. I hope you learned something from that video and happy to help. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope I give some advice, I give some knowledge and share my intellect with you guys. And again, I'm Rasher Reyes from BSS 4B signing out. Thank you so much for watching.